This would be at the bookstore.
Yeah.
It would be a paperback, and there'd be like an overly muscled dude with long hair flowing,
Fabio.
and their shirt open, and like some, it would be turned into a Netflix series by Shonda Rhimes. Welcome to Cross Connections, Season 2, Cover to Cover, as we read along with you each week and discuss the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. Cover to Cover is hosted by
Rick Morley, Elliot Van Hoy,
and Natalie Hill. Join us as we discover how these stories connect us to God, to our inner selves, and to one another in a world that tries so hard to disconnect us. Welcome back, Cross Connectors. If you thought last week was humid and steamy, welcome to our episode on the Song of Songs, also known as the Song of Solomon, even though Solomon didn't write this. This is known as the steamiest book of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And my question is, what is this really about? What's it doing in our scripture?
That's a good question.
That's a Rick question for sure.
We were just talking about the canonicity of the book, and you had some. There was a debate, right?
Yeah, there was a debate. So what's interesting, really, we didn't say this in some of the previous episodes, but Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs, also known as Song of Solomon, either name is all right, all really were quite contested when the Old Testament was being put together. We've mentioned in previous episodes that this happened around the first century when Roman Palestine rabbis all got together and they made a decision about what they thought was inspired by God. And this one was quite contentious because it is a lyric love poem. It really makes pretty much no explicit reference to God at all.
Like Esther.
Rick, we were talking about this before the episode, found there's one sort of passing reference in chapter 8 about
that some translations don't even translate as God.
Yeah, right. And so you're not, not
reading
reading this like Proverbs or even Ecclesiastes and kind of reading about, well, here's the wisdom and follow righteousness and follow God. Like this really, you're kind of like, what is the point here? And so the way that many interpreters got around this and the way it ultimately was included was by saying, well, actually, the way we have to read this is to understand that it is an allegory. It's a metaphor for the human relationship with God. This love is symbolic of the intensity of God's love for us and our love for God, and it demonstrates that for us. So that's kind of the reason it ended up being included. But you might still read it today and think, what's the point of reading this? It's really hard to read it and walk away with like, here's the message or here's the prescriptive takeaway.
I mean, I could find a lot to it. It's beautiful. Boy, do I have a real hard time
if it wasn't
relating this to God exclusively.
If it wasn't in the Bible, we would put a not safe for work tag on it. I mean, it is incredibly explicit,
right?
And then sometimes it's incredibly implicit. I mean,
this would be
very,
at the bookstore.
Yeah,
it would be a paperback, and there'd be like an overly muscled dude with long hair flowing,
Fabio,
and their shirt open, and like some, it would be turned into a Netflix series by Shonda Rhimes. It's not
right. NC-17.
Esther had more of God to it, to my mind, than this.
Right.
This is beautiful, and our intimate relationships are
also holy and beautiful.
Also holy and beautiful. And is that the point of keeping it here?
So I mean, like the as Elliot was saying, like the two sort of traditional ways of looking at Song of Songs is either a poem of the love of Solomon for one of his wives, perhaps the Queen of Sheba, but he had many wives.
Yeah, right.
He wasn't married to the Queen of Sheba. Do you mean Bathsheba? No,
No,
Bathsheba was David.
Yeah, no, but there was
There is a
came and
tradition.
visited.
there was a tradition
Yeah.
that there was a deep
Relationship
and profound
between the two.
relationship. But then he had lots of wives, and he had like hundreds of concubines. Like so, he's got some
700, wasn't it? 700?
something like that.
Something
yeah.
ridiculous.
Something ridiculous.
That was his downfall. I
More
recall.
than Elliot has.
More than you really.
Now, no
So-
need to bring Elliot's personal. That's outside of the workplace, Rick.
so it's either this love poem that Solomon has for his beloved, whoever that happened to be, or it is, as Eliot said, it's this metaphor, this allegory of what the strong passion between God and humanity is like. I always, or should be. I always think the answer, which one is it? I think it's yes. I think it's
Right.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think they're. You can't get away from the strong erotic character of this to think, oh, it's just an allegory. You would not need to do all this for an allegory. And so I do think there's like a celebration of love and a celebration of humanity and a celebration of sexual relationship here.
Yeah.
I think it's unmistakable.
Right.
But the fact that it was included in our holy book probably means it's also meant to teach us something that is on a deeply spiritual level as well, which is where we think we're in this relationship with God, and there is meant to be feeling there.
Right.
It's in both the Old and New Testaments. We have this metaphor of God as the husband and either Israel or the church, depending on which testament, New or Old Testament, you're looking at, as the spouse.
Right.
Oftentimes in the Old Testament, it's Israel is the unfaithful spouse.
So you have Hosea, which is
Right.
the whole book is literally a metaphor of Israel as an unfaithful spouse to God.
There's a huge section of the book of Ezekiel, which Israel is seen as this prostitute that is gone against her relationships. Anyway,
We'll get to those. Those are in the
we'll get there.
the prophets. They're coming up real soon.
And so, is it out of the realm of possibility that this isn't one of the ways that metaphor is manifest in the scriptures? No, I think it's pretty.
Yeah, I think when you first read this, if you have no understanding of the history of interpretation and maybe the metaphors used throughout these various scriptural texts, you would kind of ask yourself, why in the world would anyone think this was describing God's relationship with people? Because there's nothing in it. I mean, flip through it. There's nothing in it that would lead you to believe that.
Yeah.
But to your point, that is a metaphor that's recurrently used. So in the New Testament, it talks about the church as the bride of Christ, right?
And the consummate scene in the book of Revelation is the marriage feast of the Lamb.
Right.
When the church is marrying Jesus.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah. I'm curious how you
It's a little explicit, though.
It is very explicit. I also am like, there's part of me that's like, it's weird. It's very strange.
Yeah, so I get the bride and the wedding and that this goes so much farther that I just have a really hard time with this being an allegory strictly for our relationship with God.
so here's where I would, and I don't know the answer to this, but I would love to know, because I know how, the modern world, especially the modern Western world, especially the American world, we can be a little funny about sex, and we can be a little prudish about it.
We have a Puritan inheritance.
We have absolutely
Oh, yeah.
Puritan
Dang
inheritance.
Puritans.
And so, whether we actually believe this or not, we hear something about sex or sexuality, and there's a little voice inside of ourselves that goes, bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
Yep. We cringe.
Right. Like that should not be there.
Right.
And so here's what I would love to know is, how did our ancient forebears read this? Did they, obviously they didn't have any Puritans, but
Those had not come about yet.
were they as squeamish about sexuality as we are? And my guess is just by looking at, the scriptures we've read, and is that the answer is no.
Right.
I think they would be less squeamish about that, less
Right.
prudish.
That's a good point.
And so it strikes us as, wow, not safe for work.
Right.
But I think for our ancient forebears, that may have not have been the highlight,
Right.
the top line.
It's a great point.
One of the things that I think is notable here, and Elliot, you were talking about it a little bit from your book, the Ellen Davis book. I think that was where you were referring to it from. Is the equality in here, and these two. There's not a sense of. You don't get the sense of ownership, property. Who's got one.
This
up
is
on
not the
other.
capable wife who can find of the end of Proverbs.
no,
This
it's
is
not.
Right.
we're in a very different world.
Right. This is I am my beloved's and my beloved is mine.
Yes.
Level
There's a
playing
mutuality.
field. There's a mutuality here.
Which that may have been more of the scandalous notion to this book in the ancient world than
Yeah.
the sexuality. In obviously in our world we love the mutuality of love, like,
Right.
but that was not something that would have been,
No.
the wife was the property of her father before until she was handed off to her husband. But that's
Right.
not what we see here, and that might have been what was scandalous about this book and hard to read.
Well, and then so if we take that as the metaphor, then there's a mutuality of the shared love between us and God. We have love for God. God has love for us.
Yeah, a real relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was sharing that in this book. I referenced it in our Proverbs episode from Ellen Davis, Getting Involved with God. She has a wonderful chapter on the Song of Songs for anyone that might want some further reading, want to dig into this book a little bit more than what we're offering here on the podcast. And one of the things she talks about is, if we go all the way back to the beginning of our podcast to Genesis 3:16, after Adam and Eve eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they're aware of their nakedness, there are these curses that take place, these results of these consequences of doing so. And one of those that it gives for the woman in chapter 3, verse 16 reads this: "Toward your husband will be your desire, but it is he who will rule over you." So there's this recognition from the very beginning that the consequence of this action is the woman will have a desire for her husband, but he will actually sinfully lord that over her, rule over her hierarchically. And one of the things Ellen Davis points out is this word desire. It's only used twice in the Hebrew Bible, here in Genesis and then here in the Song of Songs. And where it takes place in the Song of Songs is chapter 7, verse 10. And it reads in the NRSV, "I am my beloved's," this is the woman speaking, "I am my beloved's, and his desire is for me." And so it is actually intentionally reversing that line from Genesis that is saying the woman's desire will be for the husband, but he'll lord it over her, to I belong to my beloved and his desire is for me in an equitable way, in a mutual reciprocitous way. And it's amazing. It's this amazing reversal of the curse that happens in Genesis 3. To your point, Natalie and Rick, it is just demonstrating throughout this lyric poem of the mutuality of love between these two people, the way it puts them on an equal playing field. That would have been, to your point, Rick, extremely unprecedented and controversial in the period of the day. I mean, throughout our scriptures talking about not safe for work, I think one of the things that has struck me is we have received countless tales of what would be the right word? Sexual exploits. I mean, really sexual failings of so many various characters. And oftentimes the way that is borne out patriarchally of like men that have exploited and abused women, right? We have that throughout Genesis. I'm thinking of Abraham giving his wife Sarah to Pharaoh and then doing it again. And,
Is it Judah with Tamar?
The story of Tamar. And I'm thinking of even David with Bathsheba, right? And all of the things David does.
Reuben with Bilhah?
There's so many. Yeah. I mean, I would
keep them all?
I can't even keep track of them
there's,
all.
Yeah, there's so
Right.
many.
And actually the way that is explicating this curse from Genesis 3, there's these men that are using their power and their status and position to rule over women, to take advantage of women. And what we have here is actually a picture of how love can be equal.
I've never heard that before until today. I love that. I don't know, 50% of the weddings that I do, the couples will choose one of their lessons from the Song of Solomon, and oftentimes it's that lesson.
Right.
I cannot wait to preach that sermon. That this is about the two of you.
Yeah. Right. It's about both of you.
And the whole story of the scriptures turns on that curse, right, from the 3rd chapter, and
Totally.
that in love, it's in love that curse is reversed.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh,
that's a good one.
So good.
You got to give me a shout out every wedding now.
Every wedding, as Elliot read,
as he said on our Cross Connections podcast. Yeah, no, that's a great point, Rick. And I think as Christians reading this, right, it connects to our vision of personhood somewhere like Galatians, right? I think we've been going through Galatians in our epistle readings in church on Sunday mornings. And I'm thinking of that line from Galatians 3, there is neither male nor female, Jew nor Greek, slave nor free. We are all one in Christ Jesus. That as Christians reading this actually does provide a beautiful picture of mutual love between men and women that is not hierarchically arranged. And that is in line with, I think, the vision that Jesus brings for men and women, that this is not something that is set up where men rule over women or something like
so
this.
interesting. And we'll get to Galatians when we get to Galatians, but that verse says, neither Jew nor Greek, slave or free, male and female.
Yes.
And it specifically puts that male and female
to echo Genesis,
to say that those things that separated us from the beginning no longer separate us.
Yep.
So
that's a great point.
It's another reversal of Genesis.
Yeah, 100%.
Ooh.
Yeah, preaching.
We're cooking.
Preaching fire up in here. Yeah. And, this will become a complicated topic that we will not solve today, but certainly comes up later in our scriptures and in the New Testament. So for anyone listening, there are complex passages about and in the ancient world with the relationship between men and women, right? And we're going to have to dig into some of that. But this is a great point to kind of jump off and engage some of those questions. Though it gets a bit dicey in the pastoral epistles. Fair warning. We'll get there. We'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there.
But giving you the heads up now. Anything else from Song of Solomon?
I think it's interestingly notable that in the beginning, the woman describes herself as black and beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great one. Great reminder that the characters of the Bible were not pearly white. Sometimes
very diverse.
Sometimes I think in American culture we have a tendency to forget that.
I believe that reference to her being black and beautiful is one of the things people hang on to say that she's referring to the Queen of Sheba, who's an African queen. So
Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a good catch though, Natalie, to bring out.
And it doesn't, like the description, I'm like, okay, are they, I'm going to go back and look. Do they really, like, what's that mean in here? And it doesn't really kind of come back as like, oh no, they don't really mean that. There's not a really good sense of exactly. There's a wide range of skin color, obviously, in the world. The intention, though, being is that this person does not meet whatever the standards of beauty at the time were, which tended to be more lighter skinned. But there's no apology in this declaration of, just glorifying who they are.
Yeah.
I love how the whole book begins. Like, it's just like, there's no lead in. There's no introduction. May he kiss me with some of the kisses of his mouth. Boom. Right? Like,
it just says the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. And
may he kiss me.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think another point about what you brought up, Natalie, with verse 5, I am black and beautiful, is the importance throughout this work of not only the reciprocity of love, the kind of interdependency of love, but also the self-worth that exists in this poem for both.
Yeah.
So I was thinking too, even of the start of chapter 2, I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys, right? That there is even a naming towards oneself of one's beauty, goodness, integrity.
It's not just the partner who
It's
is
not
extolling
just-
the beauties of their other partner. It's each of them extolling their own virtues as well as the virtues of their.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is so good.
And then the way love operates not as independent or dependent, codependent, but interdependent, right? Yeah,
yeah.
like
Right.
there is a recognition that we both bring our beauty, our virtues, our goodness together, and it actually creates this amazing thing together, right?
I mean, it's a really healthy,
Totally.
romantic,
Yeah.
sexual ethic.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
And to come out of, 2,400 years ago is incredible.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are moments where you get a little like, wait, what? Like that you were like a brother to me. That kind of went, but I'm sure it didn't mean that the way that it meant that, or am I sure? I'm not sure. I'm sure.
We then had the picking on the little sister at the end of chapter 8, which,
Oh, poor little sister.
yeah.
I'm just still thinking about what you said, Rick, of this healthy vision of romantic, intimate, sexual relationship between two people, rooted in equality, equity, reciprocity, mutuality, and that so often this is actually an area that the church has deeply failed on.
Yeah.
If anyone comes from evangelical culture, I was raised in South Carolina, purity culture, right? Very much shame-filled discourses around sexuality. And I'm just thinking about the history of the Episcopal Church on this front. And I think these, whether listeners realize it or not, these are questions the Episcopal Church's General Convention has actually discussed. And we have tried to take things like the Song of Solomon and think about what does this mean for our sexual ethic in the world. And there is, all the way from 2000, I wanted to read this, a resolution. So if anyone wants to go home and look this up, it's 2000-D039. That's the General Convention resolution. And it was the 73rd General Convention. And this is what they say. We acknowledge that while issues of human sexuality are not yet fully resolved, keep in mind this was in 2000, there are couples in the body of Christ and in his church who live in marriage, and couples in the body of Christ and in his church who live in other lifelong committed relationships. Be it further resolved that we expect such relationships will be characterized by fidelity, monogamy, mutual affection and respect, careful and honest communication, and the holy love which enables those in such relationships to see in each other the image of God. We denounce promiscuity, exploitation, and abusiveness in the relationships of any of our members.
Wow.
And I think that's just helpful to know that these are questions we have wrestled with, and we have tried to be a church that promotes equity, mutuality, reciprocity, mutual affection, right? And none of us have done it perfectly.
No,
but
no.
And there's long histories of hurt around these topics, but just something for listeners to be aware of.
Yeah. And I think conversations continue
Yeah.
around things.
Yeah.
What made you think about that? How did you get General Convention 2000? Like,
Yeah.
where'd that
That's
term
actually,
come from?
that's a great question. So this comes from, we are recording this on, what is this, July 1st?
July 1st.
So we just finished Pride Month, and the Episcopal Church posted a whole page for Pride Month, and on that page there is a page of additional resources that lists all of the resolutions and conventions that have even touched on anything related to this. And so I read all of those, and it was really helpful. I'd encourage anyone to go do it, to learn more about our history and learn about the ways our convention has come together. And we have wrestled with questions of sexuality, and we have wrestled with questions of sexual ethics. And we do that seeking to discern the mind of Christ together, right? We trust that the Spirit is working among us, guiding us, giving us these resolutions in the fallible form that we articulate them. And I encountered that one, and I thought it was really helpful. I thought it was such a helpful resolution of articulating a positive vision.
Yeah.
Because I think as Episcopalians, we're really embarrassed to talk about sexuality. I think, and I can say this as someone that comes from a more evangelical Christian culture and just just culture in general growing up in the South, I think sexuality is talked about a lot, but it's talked about in a way that can be very condemnatory, very negatively. And so I think I really deeply believe, this is one of my like passions, is as Episcopalians, we need to become more confident talking about sexuality. And Song of Solomon, Song of Songs is a great resource for that, right? Like it is articulating, as you two have really helpfully put it, a positive vision between partners of what intimate, romantic, healthy, interdependent relationships look like. And it just made me think of that, having read that resolution. I just went back to the page and found it and was like, oh yeah, as a church 25 years ago, almost 26 years ago, we have begun this process of trying to articulate a positive, healthy vision of how people can be in relationship with one another. So something for people to go check out.
The one caveat to that.
Oh, there can be many caveats to that. Absolutely.
That I'm finding here in Song of Solomon. So remember how I said something about that? Oh, you're like a brother to me, right? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna check the notes again. What does it say here? What's interesting is that the notes in my NRSV indicate is that she's saying this because their love is something that has to be hidden still. Like they have this between the two of them, but that this is something like that. She wishes that they could express their love freely and publicly without rebuke.
Right.
It's like
And
a
so,
secret
like,
garden.
Right.
So yeah, sort of in the, as you were saying, like the theory is this may have been Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, which was not, he was not married to the Queen of Sheba. She was not one of the concubines. She had her own other kingdom and probably someone else. So there's a degree to which there's like that little hitch in here that this is, that has all these wonderful things about it. And yet the one thing is that it's not in the light of day.
Right.
Right. And like, isn't that true with any like actual pure love? Is the world ever ready for that pure love? You know?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah. It's a good point.
But we hope.
Yeah. And working for a world ready for it.
This is deeper than I thought we were going to get.
I know. I wasn't expecting all of this content with this book.
Well, what do you know? We're deeper than we thought. Not so shallow.
Maybe we've actually gleaned some wisdom from all of this wisdom
all
literature.
these weeks in the wisdom literature.
All this wisdom in the wisdom literature. Now shall we take all of this wisdom we have gained from this wisdom literature and bring it to the prophets?
Let's go.
Keep chugging.
All right. Well, we'll be back with you and the prophets next week. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cross Connections Cover to Cover. New episodes drop each Wednesday. Please be sure to follow or like us on your favorite podcasting app to find us easily each week, or join us on our email list at stdavidschurch.org/crossconnections. If you have questions for us, you can call us at 484-588-5656 and leave a voicemail with your name, where you're from, and your question or comment. Please note, we may use your recorded voice in an upcoming episode of Cross Connections. If you like what you hear, we'd love if you would share this with your friends and rate us in Spotify and Apple Podcasts or whatever other app you're using so people can find us as well. Don't forget to visit our show notes for the year's reading list and any other resource links we've mentioned. Cross Connections is a ministry of St. David's Episcopal Church in Wayne, Pennsylvania. Season 2 Cover to Cover is hosted by
Rick Morley,
Elliot Van Hoy,
and Natalie Hill. Logo graphic design and podcast production by Natalie Hill. Stock media music provided by Marscott and Mood Mode Pond 5. You're welcome to learn more about all of St. David's worship and ministries at stdavidschurch.org.